Hey there, it's Woochia, and I wanted to go back to the MicroFreak today because lately a new firmware update has been released for it, and it reminded me that in my previous review I didn't really tell how important it was to keep your machines updated. To give you an example, when I received my MicroFreak, I had some problems to synchronize it to other machines. It was a bit glitchy, it would quickly go out of sync when I recorded loops in live recording mode, it would not record all the notes or maybe it would display them, but an update was already available and that made it a lot better. Among all the bug fixes and improvements, these old updates also improved the spice and dice system by allowing it to randomize also the envelope decay and release. And it is a very fun performance tool just by itself. And while I'm at it, just a little tip on that. I noticed that the spice and dice seemed to shorten the gate of each note more than it extended them, so I had better results by setting longer default gate time in the preset menu. Definitely fun to use, and that was only one note. So now the firmware version 2.0 is out. What is it all about and what does it bring? It is mostly a new oscillator algorithm based on noise and a new chord system that we're going to talk about in a minute. There's a lot of new presets and it also adds tiny changes that just make your life easier when you're using the MicroFreak. Like there are even more improvements on external synchronization, and when you're recording, the LED blinks on every beat instead of every 16th note. Which is a detail, but I found it way more useful than what I thought. To erase all the patch points in the matrix bay, you no longer need to delete them one by one. Now you can erase all at once by holding the shift button and holding this knob for a second. Before you could transfer an arpeggio made with the arpeggiator to a sequence, but now you can also copy a sequence pattern that is on one slot to the other slot, which is really cool to make variations on an ID without losing the first one. To copy a sequence from one slot to the other, you have to hold the slot you want to copy from and then hold the slot you want to copy to. And if you want to erase the sequence, you can hold the slot you want to erase and then hold the hold button. What is cool is that in this way you can erase a sequence where the other is playing. Now for the big announcements in this update. First, the oscillator type. It's an algorithm based on noise and it's very cool to make drum sounds, among other things. The wave knob allows you to choose the type of noise you want to use. It morphs from particle noise to white noise to a resonant metallic noise. The note you hear in the metallic noise is not particularly tuned. It will be the same note with every key on the keyboard. So it's something to see more as a noise than a note, but we'll come back to that. The timbre knob will reduce the sample rate of the sound, so that's more of a bit crusher effect. But it also serves as a pitch control for the metallic noise. So as you may think, you can use the key tracking with the timbre parameter to have lower notes on the lower keys and higher notes on the higher keys, but you can't really tune that. Here it is at 100%. Also, this bit crusher is really interesting on the particle noise. When you push it to the max, you're left with only a few particles that sound like vinyl crackle. And the shape knob gets you covered if you want to actually play notes with this noise engine. It will add a simple waveform on top of the noise. So at 0% you have only noise, then you have sine wave plus noise, then triangle wave plus noise, and at 100% you have a square wave plus noise. Turning the knob will crossfade between all that. So my first reflex when I see that is that I want to make drum sounds with it. With an envelope that have an instant attack, a short delay and no release, you can quickly have a hi-hat sound with white noise. You then have the decay to make it a closed or open hi-hat, you have the attack time to turn it into a shaker, or you can use the bit crusher to change its tone. Or we could try to make a kick or a tom drum by adding a sine wave or by using the metallic noise, and then adding an envelope modulation on the pitch, and we'll also add some filter envelopes so the filter closes quickly with each note. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is the new chord system, which I found very cool. It is probably my favorite feature on this update. Basically, the MicroFreak have two modes, monophonic, which plays one note at a time, and paraphonic, with which you can play up to 4 notes at a time. But now you can hold the paraphonic button and spell out the notes of a chord. Then each note you play on the keyboard will output this chord, but transposed. Which is already cool to double a note with its fifth to thicken the sound. So right now, if I play a major chord, it will play a major chord all across the keyboard, which can make something cool, but if you want to tie yourself to a tonality, a lot of these chords won't be usable. And that's when it becomes awesome. In the utility menu, in the preset section, you now have the options to quantize the notes of the keyboards to a particular scale. You have global, which is the normal chromatic scale. You have major, minor, harmonic minor, Dorian, Mixolydian, the blues scale, and the pentatonic major scale. If you want more details on each of these scales, you can find them in the playlist Music Theory in 5 minutes on this channel. If the link doesn't appear in the corner of the screen, you will find it in the description. In the utility menu, you also have a root note setting, so if you choose a minor scale, for example, you can make it a D minor scale or F minor scale. So with this, no matter which notes you play on the keyboard, the MicroFreak will make sure it plays the notes that are in the selected scale. And so the chord mode we saw earlier, with this quantized scale system, is excellent. It will make sure all the chords you play stay in the scale you have chosen, so you can jam freely. And also, check out what happens when I play on black keys. The chord on D flat is different from the chord on C and different from the chord on D, which means you have the major and minor chords of the scale, but you also have some suspended chords, which is super cool. You can also use this chord system with the arpeggiator or the sequencer, and once the sequence is playing, you can still change the scale you want to use, so it's a nice way to add variations. And of course, you can use the scale system without using the chord system, in case it wasn't clear. There are two independent systems, I just like to use them together. So it's all I wanted to show you today. It's a very cool update with some very neat features. Very fun to play with. So share, like, subscribe, all the usual. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.